Early this morning, another earthquake was felt in Kentucky. This time, it was a small earthquake felt in central Kentucky.
A strange, low-frequency rumbling began to ripple beneath the quiet, rolling hills of West Kentucky. For decades, this region had slumbered in relative geologic calm, overshadowed by the better-known New Madrid Seismic Zone to the west. But now, with an unexpected series of deep tremors, the ground has stirred in a way that left geologists and seismologists blinking at their instruments. Beneath the surface, something new, or perhaps ancient and long dormant, has awakened. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. It started with a faint seismic whisper, almost indistinguishable from background noise. Sensors that monitor seismic activity picked up an odd cluster of low-magnitude, high-frequency quakes centered in a previously quiet part of West Kentucky. These weren't ordinary tremors caused by the settling of rock or the common tectonic shifts that dot the map with tiny blips. Instead, these were deep, oddly rhythmic movements, almost like the pulse of something immense and hidden far below. The epicenters were deeper than expected, well beneath the crust where normal earthquakes occur, in a zone that hadn't registered significant activity in centuries, if ever. The movements weren't violent, but their regularity and subterranean depth hinted at something building pressure far beneath the surface. The discovery shook up established geologic maps. Kentucky, though not entirely free from seismic events, has never been thought of as a major player in continental seismic dynamics. That role typically belongs to the sprawling San Andreas Fault in California or the New Madrid Seismic Zone farther west. But the data told a different story. This wasn't an echo of the New Madrid system. Instead, this was something else, something separate. A new seismic zone had been discovered, lurking in the bedrock of West Kentucky like a leviathan just beginning to stir. Further analysis painted an even more peculiar picture. The tremors didn't align with traditional fault lines, and their signatures bore traits of what seismologists call slow slip events, quakes that move so gradually and subtly they often go undetected. These kinds of seismic shifts usually occur at subduction zones along tectonic plate boundaries, not in the interior of a tectonic plate like Kentucky. This anomaly suggested an entirely new geologic mechanism at work. What could be causing these deep tremors in a region that sits far from any major plate boundary? Some scientists posited an ancient fault system buried under layers of sediment and erosion, now reawakening due to changes in subsurface pressures. Others suggested the possibility of a deeply buried rift zone, an ancient scar from when North America began to split apart eons ago but never completed the process. This rift theory intrigued many. Geophysical surveys began tracing subtle anomalies in gravity and magnetic fields, suggesting the presence of a hidden geologic structure stretching beneath western Kentucky. Remote sensing and ground-penetrating radar hinted at an elongated fractured zone running northeast to southwest, obscured beneath thousands of feet of sediment and shale. It might be a relic of the late Precambrian or early Paleozoic eras, when massive rifting events reshaped what would become the North American continent. These old wounds, long thought healed, may still harbor the capacity to move. The implications of such a zone reactivating are profound. Beyond the academic implications, the emergence of a mysterious seismic zone raises practical concerns for local communities. The region includes a mix of rural farmland, small towns, and crucial infrastructure such as bridges, railways, and gas pipelines. While the quakes observed so far have been minor, their very presence introduces a new variable in regional planning. If these movements grow in intensity or frequency, structures built without seismic reinforcement could be at risk. Civil engineers and emergency management officials are already reassessing seismic hazard maps, adjusting for a newly uncertain future. Insurance companies, always quick to react to shifting risk, have begun evaluating policies across West Kentucky. With no previous record of seismic hazard in this particular area, many property owners carry little or no earthquake insurance. That may soon change. Banks and insurers will likely reclassify parts of western Kentucky as seismically vulnerable, driving up premiums and forcing new construction codes. It's a tangible ripple effect from the mysterious stirrings underground. Economic and social consequences drawn directly from the Earth's hidden restlessness. Meanwhile, geologists are deploying new arrays of sensors across the region. These instruments will monitor ground motion in finer detail, listening for every tremor, every sigh of pressure from the depths. Teams from universities and federal agencies like the US Geological Survey are collaborating, combing through the existing data archives, seeking past signals that might have gone unnoticed. The hope is to build a detailed seismic fingerprint of this new zone, an atlas of its movements, its scope, and its potential. One of the more startling realizations came from thermal imaging and deep earth tomography. These advanced imaging techniques revealed areas of unexpected heat beneath the surface. Not volcanic heat, there are no signs of magma, but anomalous warmth that suggests rising material or friction along deep faults. This thermal anomaly could indicate the slow grinding of massive geological blocks miles beneath the crust, perhaps awakening from millions of years of dormancy. If correct, it means the region isn't just experiencing tremors, it's undergoing a profound reactivation process, one that could unfold over decades or even centuries. The mystery draws further complexity when considering the regional hydrology. Western Kentucky sits atop an intricate web of aquifers, caves, and underground rivers. Changes in seismic pressure could affect water flow in unexpected ways, altering groundwater levels, causing sudden sinkholes, or shifting the chemical balance in wells. These subtle effects might already be underway, unnoticed amid the region's seasonal cycles. Environmental scientists are now working alongside seismologists, looking for signs of ecological change driven by geologic motion. More provocatively, the seismic reawakening could be part of a broader continental shift. North America, though relatively stable in plate tectonic terms, is not immune to internal changes. Some geophysicists theorize that deep beneath the crust, mantle plumes or stress redistributions can reactivate ancient fault zones. These so-called intraplate quakes are rare and poorly understood, but they remind us that continental interiors are not fixed and frozen. They are dynamic, evolving landscapes. In this context, the West Kentucky Seismic Zone becomes more than just a local curiosity. It becomes a window into Earth's deep-time behavior. If confirmed as an active rift or reactivated fault system, it could change the way geologists think about the eastern half of North America. For generations, the focus of seismic hazard has been on the coasts and the Mississippi Valley. But now, attention must shift eastward into the heart of the continent, where the Earth may be whispering of future upheavals. There's also a cultural element to consider. Kentucky's landscape holds deep historical roots. Indigenous histories, pioneer trails, Civil War battlefields, and family farms passed down for generations. The land here is seen as steady and familiar. The idea that it could become geologically unstable challenges long-held assumptions. For some residents, the thought is unsettling. There's a psychological shift that occurs when the earth beneath your feet ceases to be a constant. That feeling of uncertainty tied directly to the land can be just as jarring as any quake. Scientists are cautious in their language. No one is predicting a catastrophic event or a major fault rupture. The tremors remain small, and the data is still new. But the very fact that a previously unknown seismic zone has come to life demands attention. Even if the movements remain modest, their implications are immense. They tell a story of hidden forces, of deep time slowly brushing against the present. For the people living in West Kentucky, the days of assuming geologic silence may be over. Farmers who have long plowed the same fields may one day notice subtle shifts in the soil. Engineers may find old bridge supports showing new signs of strain. Surveyors might map slight tilts in land once considered perfectly level. Bit by bit, the signs of movement will accumulate, quietly, persistently, with the patience only the earth can summon. The questions now outnumber the answers. How large is this seismic zone? What triggered its awakening? Could it become more active in the future? Are there parallel zones lying dormant elsewhere in the eastern United States? These are the puzzles driving a new wave of research, not just in Kentucky, but across the central and eastern United States. The tools used to investigate, satellite interferometry, seismographic triangulation, deep earth modeling, are among the most advanced in geoscience. Yet even with modern technology, the Earth's inner workings retain their veil of mystery. As deeper studies and more refined data began to flow in, researchers found themselves facing an even more complex picture than initially thought. The seismic activity wasn't isolated to a single vertical fault or line. Instead, it appeared to be part of a branching network of stress lines running in multiple orientations. Some diagonal, others nearly vertical, a few horizontal and deep in origin. These intersecting patterns suggested a kind of seismic lattice, a meshwork of crustal weakness that had remained hidden beneath layers of sediment, pressure, and time. Geophysical imaging revealed subtle displacements in rock strata that hinted at ancient movements, potentially dating back hundreds of millions of years. These formations bore marks of compression and tension inconsistent with the present-day tectonic environment, pointing to a time when this region may have been under vastly different stress orientations, possibly during the breakup of the supercontinent Rodinia, or later during the reconfiguration of Pangaea. Such events, buried in Earth's deep past, leave behind stress residues. Those residual pressures can, under the right circumstances, be reactivated by far-off shifts in mass distribution, ice melt, groundwater withdrawal, or even far-field tectonic activity. One theory gaining traction involves the concept of stress transference. According to this model, strain accumulated elsewhere in the continent, perhaps from the movement along the Atlantic passive margin, or even the subtle uplift of the Appalachian Plateau, could migrate through the rigid continental crust. These slow, creeping shifts don't always trigger immediate earthquakes where they originate. Instead, they travel silently, redistributing energy across vast distances until they find a zone of weakness, like the one now identified beneath West Kentucky. There, the stress can be released gradually or catastrophically, depending on the local geological architecture. Complicating matters further is the role of anthropogenic influence. While there is no direct evidence linking human activity to the awakening of this seismic zone, scientists cannot rule out indirect contributions. In other regions of the U.S., deep injection of wastewater from hydraulic fracturing operations has been known to induce seismicity. While Kentucky's fracking operations are minimal compared to states like Oklahoma or Texas, even small changes in subsurface pressure can have unforeseen consequences when applied to unstable regions. Groundwater pumping, mining, and large-scale excavation projects might subtly shift the balance in areas already close to critical thresholds. As the zone's profile emerged in greater detail, computational modeling teams began simulating various scenarios to assess what this newly discovered system might be capable of. Using stress mapping software, they fed in the geometry of the faults, the density of the overburdened rock, and historical data on North American seismicity. The results were striking, not because they predicted immediate disaster, but because they showed the potential for moderate to strong quakes in an area previously thought nearly immune to such events. One model suggested that if pressure continued to build and was released along multiple fault segments simultaneously, the result could be a quake in the magnitude 6.0-6.5 range, enough to damage older buildings, rupture pipelines, and cause panic in local populations. The broader implications of these findings reverberated across the scientific community. For decades, intraplate seismicity has been among the least understood phenomena in geology. Unlike interplate earthquakes, which occur where tectonic plates collide or slide past each other, intraplate quakes defy easy classification. They often strike with little warning in places with no obvious surface faulting. The West Kentucky seismic awakening offers a rare opportunity to study such activity in real time. It could become a template for understanding similar zones across the interior of North America, from the Ozarks to the Piedmont to parts of the Canadian Shield. This emergence also reignited long-standing debates in geoscience circles about the stability of cratonic interiors. The North American craton, the ancient stable core of the continent, has long been viewed as a geological fortress, immune to the more dynamic forces that plague plate boundaries. But the presence of subtle faulting, buried rift systems, and unexpected seismicity suggests that even these cores are not entirely inert. They may simply be slower, quieter, more methodical in how they release energy. In this sense, the awakening zone beneath West Kentucky acts as a subtle rebuttal to the idea of tectonic permanence. In practical terms, the response from policymakers, engineers, and urban planners began to shift. While emergency services ramped up public awareness campaigns and revised disaster readiness protocols, structural engineers examined the seismic resistance of key facilities. Dams, power plants, hospitals, and bridges underwent new assessments, with particular attention paid to lifeline infrastructure, gas lines, water mains, and communication towers. Kentucky's state capitol commissioned a regional vulnerability study, including simulations of worst-case seismic scenarios and proposals for retrofitting vulnerable structures. The seismic zone's discovery also held implications for regional energy strategies. Western Kentucky hosts several energy production facilities, including coal-fired plants, gas pipelines, and a handful of renewable installations. The prospect of ground movement, even at modest magnitudes, raised concerns about operational stability, equipment integrity, and long-term investment. Energy companies began reviewing their emergency protocols, and in some cases, halted new development plans pending further geological assessments. Yet for all the logistical and technical reactions, there remained an emotional and psychological undercurrent that resonated through the local population. In communities like Hopkinsville, Mayfield, and Paducah, the land is part of cultural identity. Generations have lived and farmed the same soil, trusting in its constancy. The idea that it could ripple and heave, even in slow, nearly invisible ways, introduced a sense of fragility that was both novel and deeply unsettling. Community centers and town halls saw a surge in public meetings, where residents asked questions that even seasoned scientists struggled to answer with certainty. Farmers expressed concerns about changes to well water, subtle shifts in soil drainage, or hairline cracks appearing in barns and silos. While most of these issues were likely coincidental or the result of seasonal expansion and contraction, the heightened awareness made people more observant and more anxious. Local churches and civic organizations began including earthquake preparedness sessions alongside traditional safety drills. In schools, children learned about seismic waves and fault lines in new earth science units, hastily updated to reflect their region's shifting risk profile. In the academic realm, the zone attracted new research grants and visiting scholars. University field teams installed portable seismometers in cornfields and woods, often with the cooperation of curious landowners. Data flowed into national seismic networks where algorithms parsed every vibration. A clearer picture began to emerge, not just of a single fault, but of a dynamic, evolving system whose full extent was still being mapped. Scientists from other countries with experience in similar intraplate settings, from Australia to China, offered comparative insights, drawing parallels and suggesting collaborative studies. One surprising angle came from the Paleoseismic record. By examining ancient lake beds and buried sediment layers, geologists searched for evidence of past quakes that might mirror what is now unfolding. Core samples from river valleys and lowland basins revealed sand blows and disrupted strata, hallmarks of prehistoric shaking. Radiocarbon dating placed some of these events in the range of 3,000 to 8,000 years ago, suggesting that this seismic zone may not be as new as it seems. It may have been dormant within the span of human memory, but alive in the longer arc of geologic time. Even archaeologists found new angles of inquiry. They began examining indigenous settlement patterns for clues. Were certain sites avoided or abandoned in ways that suggested seismic disturbance? Oral histories, though often metaphorical, hinted at legends of ground shivers and sacred trembling hills. While far from conclusive, such records offered tantalizing leads. If the ground had spoken before, it may have done so in ways recorded not in data logs, but in story and song. Meanwhile, the seismic rhythm continued, not constant, but pulsing in irregular intervals. Weeks might pass without a noticeable tremor, only for several microquakes to occur in quick succession. This behavior pointed to complex stress-loading mechanisms, possibly affected by seasonal moisture, regional temperature shifts, or even lunar gravitational cycles. The subtlety of the activity required new levels of sensitivity and detection. Advanced algorithms were deployed to distinguish natural quakes from background noise, trucks rumbling down highways, farm machinery, or thunderclaps. Public interest sparked a wave of educational outreach. Science museums in the region hosted exhibits explaining seismic waves, fault dynamics, and Earth's internal layers. Local libraries featured talks by visiting geologists, while news outlets produced in-depth features exploring what it means to live above a potentially active fault. Podcasts and YouTube channels picked up the story, drawing international curiosity to this hidden drama playing out beneath Kentucky's soil. Despite the growing knowledge, the ultimate future of the seismic zone remained unpredictable. Would it stabilize after a period of minor adjustment? Or were these early tremors the prelude to larger movement in decades to come? The answer lay buried in rock beyond the reach of instruments, and perhaps in the hands of forces still poorly understood. Some scientists voiced hope that continued study of this zone could unlock broader insights into seismic behavior far from plate boundaries. If models could successfully predict its patterns, it might lead to better forecasting in similar settings around the globe. This could be especially valuable in densely populated eastern U.S. cities like St. Louis, Nashville, or even Chicago, which lie above ancient geologic structures that could, under the right conditions, become active once more. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the seismic zone awakening in West Kentucky? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.